In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve 4 dose calculation questions based on body weight, which were asked on the RX Calculations question and answer forum, and we are starting right now. Hello, this is Dr. Dankwa, and if this is your first time here and you'd like to learn pharmaceutical calculations tips, tricks, and strategies, then start by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So if you would like to see a more detailed review on those calculations based on body weight, or you just like to see additional examples that have been solved on this topic, I'm going to put links to several videos in the description and I'll link it in the cards as well. But let's get right to it. This question says, the dose of gentamicin for patients with impaired renal function is adjusted to ensure therapeutically optimal dosage. If the normal daily dose of the drug for adults is 3 mg per kilogram per day, administered in 3 divided doses, what would be the single 8-hour dose for a patient weighing 165 pounds and scheduled to receive only 40% of the usual dose based on renal impairment? So this question can be elegantly solved using dimensional analysis, and that's what we are going to use for this question and also for the other 3 questions that we are going to be taking a look in this particular video tutorial. So the way we want to start off with is the normalized dose. The normalized dose here refers to the 3 mg per kilogram per day because it's normalized to body weight. That's why it's milligrams per kilogram per day. And now what we'll do is we'll start off with the 3 mg per kilogram per day. So that's how you would write that out. And then we want to basically end up with quantity in milligrams. So we need to get rid of the kilograms from the denominator and the day from the denominator as well. And so let's start off with dealing with the weight component. The patient actually weighs 165 pounds. So we need to find the dose for this particular weight. But you will notice that we have 2 different units of weight. We have pounds in the numerator and kilograms in the denominator. So we need to go ahead and convert the pounds to kilograms. And so we'll make use of the conversion factor that 2.2 pounds is equivalent to 1 kilogram. So the pounds will cancel out because any term in the numerator will cancel out the term in the denominator for dimensional analysis. And then we can do the same thing with the kilogram. So the kilogram in the numerator cancels out the kilogram in the denominator. And so now we are in milligram per day and we need to get rid of the day. And the reason being that we actually just interested in the dose for 1 8-hour period. And so the way that will work is we can deduce from the question that in each day there are 3 doses. And so here the day will cancel out and now you're in milligrams per dose. But notice that this actually is for a patient who receives only 40% of the usual dose. So this normalized dose here is for a patient with a normal renal function, but here the patient is only having 40% of the usual dose. So we need to account for that. And what that will look like is we will do 40%, so we can multiply either by 0.4 or we'll multiply by 40 divided by 100, which is basically 40%. And so now we are at the point where we can basically multiply all the terms in the numerator and divide by all the terms in the denominator. And so what that will look like is you have 3 milligrams times 165 times 1 times 1 times 40 divided by 2.2 times 3 doses times 100. And this will be equal to 30 milligram per dose. This question says, in a clinical trial of ciprofloxacin, Cipro, pediatric patients were initiated on 6 to 10 milligrams per kilogram intravenously every 8 hours and converted to oral therapy 10 to 20 milligrams per kilogram every 12 hours. Calculate the ranges of the total daily amounts of ciprofloxacin that would have been administered intravenously and orally to a 40-pound child. So in this question, in the clinical trial, you are testing out 2 routes of administration. You're testing out intravenous or IV, and then you're also testing out oral therapy. And so we want to juxtapose the range of those doses depending on the frequency in which you're also taking the drug. So we'll start off by taking a look at the intravenous route. And so for the intravenous route, the range actually is 6 to 10 milligrams per kilogram. So the milligrams per kilogram is the dose normalized to body weight. And also we are given the fact that for IV or intravenously is given every 8 hours. So let's start off with the 6 milligrams per kilogram. And so what that would look like is you have 6 milligrams per kilogram and is given every 8 hours. So that also goes in the denominator here. And we have the patient's weight given as 40 pounds. So we put 40 pounds. The reason being, we want to find out how much Cipro this child with this weight would have. So 40 pounds, we notice that the units in the pounds and the kilograms are not consistent. So we're going to convert the pounds to kilograms, and we use the conversion factor. 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. So the pounds cancel out and the kilograms also cancel out. Now, notice that the question is asking for the amount the child will receive in a day. So total daily amount. So we determine that there are 24 hours in one day. The hours will cancel out, and now you're in milligrams per day. So here the next step is to multiply all the terms in the numerator. So we have 6 milligrams times 40 times 1 times 24 divided by 8 times 2.2 times 1 day. And this is going to be equal to 327.27 milligrams per day. So we can go ahead and repeat the process for the 10 milligram dose. So we start off with 10 milligrams per kilogram. That's also for 8 hours. It's the same patient, so the weight is 40 pounds. Now the pounds is not consistent with the kilograms, so we convert the pounds to kilograms, and the conversion factor is 2.2 pounds being equal to 1 kilogram. The pounds can cancel out, the kilograms can also cancel out. We're interested once again in the total daily amount, so there are 24 hours in one day. And so now we can go ahead and multiply all the terms in the numerator and divide by everything in the denominator. So we have 10 milligrams times 40 times 1 times 24 divided by 8 times 2.2 times a day. Now notice that the hours would also cancel out, so I didn't include that in the math here. But by going through the simplification process, we end up with 545.45 milligram per day. So for this route of administration, the range for the child is going to be 327.27 to 545.45 milligrams per day. Let's now take a look at the oral route. So for the oral route, we have a range from 10 on the lower end to 20 on the higher end milligrams per kilogram. The other difference is they're given the oral therapy every 12 hours compared to the IV where you're given every 8 hours. So let's start off with the lower end, which is the 10 milligrams per kilogram. So we have 10 milligrams per kilogram. This time it's given every 12 hours. The patient is the same, so you still have 40 pounds. We convert the pounds to kilograms, so 2.2 pounds is 1 kilogram. The pounds cancel out, the kilograms cancel out. This is for a total daily amount. So we have 24 hours in a day. So the hours cancel out. And now we multiply all the terms in the numerator. So we have 10 milligrams times 40 times 1 times 24 divided by all the terms in the denominator. So you have 12 times 2.2 times 1 day. And now this is equal to 363.64 milligrams per day. We can repeat the process for the 20 milligram dose. So we have 20 milligrams per kilogram given every 12 hours. It's the same patient, so you have 40 pounds. We convert the pounds to kilograms. So 2.2 pounds is equivalent to 1 kilogram. The kilograms cancel out, the pounds cancel out. We are interested in the total daily dose. And so we have 24 hours in one day. So the hours cancel out. And now we can multiply all the terms in the numerator. So we have 20 milligrams times 40 times 1 times 24 divided by 12 times 2.2 times 1 day. and that is equal to 727.27 milligrams per day. And so when it comes to the oral therapy, the range is actually 363.64 to 727.27 milligram per day. This question says, if the pediatric dose of chloramphenicol chlorphene is 10 to 20 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day in a single dose or two divided doses, not to exceed 375 milligrams per day, calculate the daily dosage range of an oral suspension containing 250 milligrams chloramphenicol per 5 milliliters that should be administered to a 48-pound child. So here the question is looking for the daily dosage range. And in this particular question, the range is actually to be given in milliliters. That's why you have the information 250 milligrams chloramphenicol per 5 milliliters. So we'll go ahead and find the dose per the weight of this child in milligrams and then use the 250 milligrams chloramphenicol per 5 ml to convert or translate the mass quantity into a volume quantity. So let's see how that will actually look like. We start off with the 10 milligrams per kilogram per day. So we have 10 milligrams per kilogram per day. And this is for a 48-pound child. So the weight here is 48 pounds. We need to convert the pounds to kilograms so that the units are consistent. And so we use the conversion factor. 2.2 pounds is equivalent to 1 kilogram. The pounds will cancel out, the kilograms cancel out. So we can now multiply all the terms in the numerator. That will be 10 milligrams times 48 times 1 divided by all the terms in the denominator. And that will be day times 2.2. And this is going to be equal to 218.18 milligrams per day. But what we need is the volume of the suspension. That will be equal to the 218.18 milligrams. So the way that will work is we will take this conversion factor or this ratio, 250 milligrams of chloramphenicol per 5 milliliters. And actually what that will look like is we have 5 milliliters, which contains 250 milligrams of chloramphenicol. Then in which case, how much volume would you need to provide the 218.18 milligrams? So if we go ahead and do the math, that's going to be equal to 4.4 milliliters. So now the upper end of the range is given as 20 milligrams per kilogram. And so we repeat the process for 20 milligrams per kilogram per day. And that will be 20 milligrams divided by kilogram per day is for a 48-pound child once again. So 48 pounds, but we need to convert the pounds to kilograms. So we use the conversion factor. 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. The kilograms cancel out and the pounds cancel out. So we can now multiply all the terms in the numerator, which would imply that you have 20 milligrams times 48 times 1 divided by day times 2.2. Now this is going to be equal to 436.36 milligrams per day. Now in principle at this point you want to go ahead and convert the weight in milligrams to the amount in milliliters, but we need to do a quick analysis. Here we've been told in the question that the maximum dose is going to be 375, so not to exceed 375 milligrams per day. When we calculated the amount per day based on the 20 milligrams per kilogram, we end up with 436.36, which is more than the 375 milligrams. So what it is the 375 milligrams is going to be the upper range for this particular situation. So the volume that we'll be calculating will be based off the 375 milligrams and not the 436.36 milligrams. That's important to note. This is an important distinction that is in this question, which you need to be cognizant of. So here for the upper range, what we'll do is we will take the 250 milligrams of chloramphenicol per 5 ml and use that information together with the 375 milligrams to determine the upper range. So what that would look like then is you have 5 milliliters containing 250 milligrams of chloramphenicol, and we multiply that by the 375 milligrams. The milligrams cancel out, and you end up with 7.5 milliliters. And so the range is going to be equal to 4.4 milliliters to 7.5 milliliters. This question says a 2-agent dosage regimen termed MP for the treatment of multiple myeloma is as follows: melphalan 0.25 milligrams per kilogram by mouth 1 to 4 days per week for 6 weeks, and prednisone 2 milligrams per kilogram by mouth 1 to 4 days per week for 6 weeks. A. Calculate the total milligrams each of melphalan and prednisone taken per week by a patient who weighs 165 pounds. So in this question, our goal actually is to determine the size of the dose. So we have a total milligram of melphalan and prednisone that we are looking for, and we are going to make use of the normalized dose, that's the milligram per kg for both melphalan and prednisone, and try and figure out exactly how much this patient needs based on the weight, the 165 pound weight. So let's start off with the melphalan. So for melphalan, the normalized dose is 0.25 milligram per kg, and the patient's weight is 165 pounds. But notice the pounds and kilograms are not consistent, so we need to convert that. So we use the conversion factor. 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. The kilograms cancel out and the pounds cancel out. But we don't stop here because it's 4 days per week. So we need to account for that. So we have 4 per week. So we can go ahead and multiply all the terms in the numerator, which will be 0.25 milligrams times 165 times 1 times 4 divided by 2.2 times week. And this is going to be equal to 75 milligrams per week. We can do a similar thing for the prednisone. So let's just go ahead and do that. So prednisone, the normalized dose here is 2 milligrams per kg. So we have 2 milligrams per kilogram times the patient's weight, which is 165 pounds, times the conversion factor, 2.2 pounds being equal to 1 kilogram. The kilograms cancel out, the pounds cancel out. You also have this 4 times in a week. And so we go ahead and multiply all the terms in the numerator. So that'll be 2 milligrams times 165 times 1 times 4 divided by 2.2 times 1 week. And this is going to be equal to 600 milligrams per week. And so the amount of melphalan you need per week for this patient is 75 milligrams. And the amount of prednisone needed per week for this patient is 600 milligrams. So for B, the question is saying if melphalan is available in 2 milligram tablets, how many tablets are required to dose this patient for the entire treatment cycle? So here we are interested in the total quantity of medication to dispense, which is the number of tablets, and the entire treatment cycle is for 6 weeks. So from part A, we calculated that the patient, based on their weight, would need 75 milligrams per week. And so here, we know the entire treatment cycle is for 6 weeks. So the weeks cancel out and now you're in milligrams, but we need number of tablets. So each tablet contains 2 milligrams. And so we use that as the conversion factor. So 2 milligrams of melphalan is contained in each tablet. So the milligrams can cancel out and now you are in tablets. So we can go ahead and multiply all the numbers in the numerator. So you have 75 times 6 times 1 tablet divided by 2. And that is equal to 225 tablets. Now part C of the question says if the patient prefers prednisone oral solution to prednisone tablets, how many milliliters of the solution with a concentration of 5 milligrams per milliliter should be dispensed weekly? Now to solve this question, it's important to recollect from part A that we computed the amount of prednisone that this patient needs per week to be 600 milligrams. So based on the patient's weight this patient will need 600 milligrams of prednisone per week. And so since the patient prefers the oral solution to the tablet, then we want to make use of this concentration. So what that would imply then is we'll multiply this ratio by 5 milligrams of prednisone present in every single milliliter, and that will give us the volume component because we're interested in how many milliliters. The milligrams cancel out, and that is equal to 120 milliliters per week. So if you need more practice on those calculations based on body weight, I'll put links to several videos in the description, and I'll link it in the cards as well. So I hope you found this video tutorial useful. If you did, be sure to like it and share it. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as I see them. If you'd like to learn more pharmaceutical calculations, tips, tricks, and strategies, then start by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.